Okay, hopefully you can see me as I'm recording this, driving home right now from work, and I've been wanting to make a YouTube video for a while, but I have perfectionist tendencies, or I have had in the past perfectionist tendencies in wanting to make a video look good, and the editing has to be amazing, and the soundtrack has to be fire, and this and that and the other thing. And now I'm just saying, fuck it, let's do this. So I have no agenda. This is completely unscripted, and that's what I want to bring more to my life, is this unscripted nature. Because I know for me, I'm always trying to plan things out. My friend a few years ago said that I seem to have an addiction to suffering. And that was pretty telling, because it's like projecting myself into the future, and if things in the present aren't going the way that I expect or that they're supposed to, then it doesn't seem, I don't seem to be content. So the question then is, what is enough? If I'm not reaching enough, if I'm not feeling enough, then let's define what we're shooting for. Let's define the goal. And I don't know what that is. It always feels a bit out of reach. And I'm in Los Angeles right now. I moved here from New Jersey almost a year ago, so 11 months ago. And nothing went according to plan. I mean, I lost almost all of my money on the way here last year, and came out here to do filmmaking, and now I'm working at Amazon, and soon we'll hopefully be leaving to do something else. Picked up ghostwriting and started making content on Twitter. All of those things were never part of the plan or expectation, but creating content has always been. And so now I'm really trying to figure out what my intentions are and the things that I do. For example, my intention is just to create. It'd be great to do these weekly and daily, perhaps more like a vlog style. But right now, as you can see, I'm just recording on the way home. And my hope is that if you're watching this, you can get something out of this, or maybe things are clicking for you. I don't know. What I will say is that moving out of my hometown was definitely one of the biggest things to propel me closer to my ideal self, I would say, since moving out here. I learned a fuck ton. I'm still learning a shit ton, and it's forced me to grow. And now that I'm here, I find that I'm at a new comfort level where I have to push myself even further to grow. And so for me, I get a high off of facing my fears, challenging myself. But now I'm also realizing that there has to be a dichotomy. There could be struggle and challenge, but there also has to be contentment and enjoyment. Because if I'm not feeling that peace of mind, then it makes everything else more difficult. Alex Hormozy talks about peace of mind for him is working on his business. Like, that is his peace of mind. He doesn't need hobbies, because that's what lights a fire in him. For myself, like, my goal, my vision is to have my own production company, like a Studio Ghibli or an A24. And I know that takes time. And so that's why I'm hoping that this can be a way to document that and create in the meantime. I'm working on a screenplay, and I have a podcast, and I'm doing all these different things. Maybe it's part of my human design, a manifesting generator, to want to do all these different things. But now it's like, okay, how do I create a lifestyle for myself now with my current means and schedule that I enjoy and that I'm excited about and that lights me up? And it's not always going to be butterflies and rainbows, but compromise, as Maroon 5 says in one of their songs. But it's going to take time. So at this exact moment in this video, I'm just riffing on these ideas and everything that's coming up. because there's still a lot of insecurities that have been coming up amid success. And that, again, to circle back to that worthiness question, am I worthy enough? Am I enough for this? Do I deserve this? I haven't dated anybody. I've avoided relationships the last few years. And now I can't avoid it any longer. I really want to make this happen. And it's always been a vision of mine to be really successful with women and intimacy. But also discovering that requires vulnerability. So it's not about getting numbers or approaching. That's part of it. And as I face that, now a new level has unlocked where it's like, okay, now you are required to face vulnerability and the idea of worthiness and insecurity. And one thing that's coming up as I'm even talking about this is that everybody has that insecurity and challenges around different things. Maybe not the same challenges, but everybody has these challenges. I'm sure you do. We all do. But I often think that I'm the main character, because I am the main character in my movie, and that I'm the only one experiencing these things. But I know that's not the case. It's just easy to get trapped in that mindset. And so really it seems to require a lot of letting go, or like the concept of wu wei, of not forcing, and just being unattached, which is freaking difficult, man. I know for me, it's weird too, because like, for example, there was this one chick I dig, right? And she's very clearly interested, but still part of me is like, I still have to impress her. I still have to work to achieve her validation, and in some weird fashion, her love, right? And so that then asks the questions like, okay, where does this come from? How do we combat this? How do we deal with this? Maybe combat's not the right word, but how do I work on this internally so I don't feel like I need that validation, or I can really truly just be me? And if you want to come along for the ride, cool. If not, whatever. And it's easy to say that. I could just say, yeah, if they're about it, cool. If they're not, whatever. But it's much different to fully realize that and believe that. And so one thing that I've been meaning to do is really sit down and lay out all my beliefs. Like, go through an inventory of all my beliefs on, on everything. Relationships, money, spirituality, the whole nine, and really spend hours just to go through those things, identify if they serve me or not. Because I was a very anxious kid in high school. I was always shy, and as I've gotten older and done more work on myself, I'm more outgoing now, and I've been working out, so I'm in good shape, and I got the haircut, and I'm doing all the things now. I've realized all the things that I would pretty much give advice to somebody who's just starting out, as a man at least. Eat healthy, work out, get a nice haircut, dress well. That last part I could use some work on still. I keep it pretty simple. I like to spruce up my wardrobe a bit. But those things I've really kind of realized for myself. And so now it's just a matter of, how do I, instead of putting on these habits or almost performance-based rituals, how do I just fully embody what I'm talking about and have that inner confidence where it's like, I'm good no matter what? Because one thing I've also realized, a lot of realizations I'm sharing with you right now, but is that friends, validation, women, these are all like fixtures. These are all adornments to the main course of life. Like, none of those things will fix you, okay? Like, all the insecurities, all those things that I'm experiencing, like, and none of that is going to be solved by having more women in my life or having more opportunities. All those things, if desired, are awesome. Abundance, great. But they also come with responsibility and may in many ways be a mirror to things that I still need to work on. And in this case, I haven't even been intimate with some of these women, and I'm already like, whoa, like I'm really scared to be vulnerable. Like I'm scared, you know. And it's that what doesn't help is all these gurus on Twitter, on Instagram, who you know, you have the one side who's like very woo-woo spiritual and like, you know, share all your emotions, express yourself without limit. And then you have the other side who are like masculine frame, never show a woman weakness. And I don't think either of them are necessarily right. I think there's a juxtaposition and there's a time and place for each of those things. But ultimately, in the context of this conversation, is having that base level confidence in yourself, on your mission, on where you want to go and what you are striving for. I've noticed that when I am completely engaged and moving forward with this kind of supersonic drive towards a goal or a mission, I am so much less prone to be distracted and occupied with this kind of little petty bullshit. That's what tends to get me, is the whole one-itis in regards to women. This fixation on one person is often, I've realized through many months of reflection on this, is often solved by reprioritizing. Hey, my mission comes first, my purpose comes first as a man. And perhaps us in the West are too concerned with purpose, because that can be a trap in itself, where it's like, is this in line with my purpose? You'll never be able to see all the steps. Like, you'll never be able to see the whole journey. Really, in actuality, you can only see the very step you're on, and maybe the next step as it appears. So a lot of it has to do with faith. There's this you know, concept of wu wei, of not forcing, letting things be and taking action when necessary, but also there is a deep level of faith required, and being like, I'm going to believe that this is going to work. I'm going to believe it, and we'll see what happens. So there's a lot of that. And what is helpful too is to have a community and people that support you, that are willing to, one, with that scale I mentioned before, hear out your expressions, you expressing your emotions, but also be willing to push you when you're just not showing up as you should. You know, there's a juxtaposition. There's the time and place for, hey, shut the fuck up, do the work. And then there's another time and place for, like, hey, tell me what you're going through, let me support you. And as men, we often have trouble, one, discerning between the two, but also asking for help. And for me, I've noticed that I've confused asking for help with venting and complaining. And that's one thing I'm trying to get better at least in the last few days, is not complaining. And that's challenging, especially when it's such a conditioned pattern of complaining, like, this sucks, blah, 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 this sucks. Even with the mundane things, try my best not to complain about those things. So, yeah, that's kind of all the things that have been on my mind as of late. It's a pretty wacky place sometimes. I definitely can do with some meditation and breath work. I fell off of that in favor of the get up and just go to work, Hormozy type attitude. And that's a big key thing too, is figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, because everybody has varying opinions. You know, David Goggins has his approach, and my advice would be to study successful people and their approaches, adopt the ones that work, and discard the ones that don't. And I've been successful in some areas, and I'm still working on being successful in many more, but I know that there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. And so that's the really big thing, is figuring out what your way is. You know, I mentioned Wu Wei and the way, like, this is the way. And a friend of mine, Emerald, shout out to Emerald, she said she was writing the other day, and it just felt like she had to get everything out. And it was just coming out so organically, and that gave her a lot of ideas. And she asked me, is this how you go about writing? And what I told her is that I know when I'm on the right path when there's a bodily sensory sensation attached to it. You know, when the mind is not telling me, you know, you should do this. My body's like, this is it. And you'll know it when you start to feel it out. And maybe it's different for you. Maybe you have a different realization. But once you start paying attention, that's the big thing, paying attention, you may be able to pick this up. You know, when I sat down in the movie theater to watch The Northman, I got shivers down my spine and my scalp tightened up. And I knew I have to write something in this tone, like in this vibe, masculinity, this period piece. And that's what I'm working on now. I have to do this. And it's been on my mind ever since to do this. And so whatever form of fashion that comes for you, start paying attention to it. If it keeps screaming at you to do, that's a sign you should do it. If it keeps nagging at your brain, that's a sign you should do it. So let's see, we've got a couple exits left. I've been sitting in traffic for a while. That's the nature of LA. So I've been rambling for quite a bit, but I hope you got something out of this. I don't know if this is going to be an everyday thing or a weekly thing. It might be in a different format. I don't even know if this is recording right now. I really hope so. Or the steering wheel's not in the fucking way the entire time. But I'm just trying to document my journey, share the things I'm learning along the way,